I'm live. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope that you had a great Easter weekend, Ramadan weekend, Passover weekend, just weekend in general. It is snowing here. It is April 18th, and it is snowing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which I've lived here now for 3 years, and this is the first time this has happened, and I'm not happy about it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the business. It's not my favorite. It's supposed to be spring. That's what I was told. Anyway, hopefully wherever you are today, it is much nicer outside. And there's not flurries of snow right outside your window, unless maybe you're in like Minnesota, you're probably experiencing this as well. As my friend Jenna says, who's from Minnesota, that the cold makes her feel alive. So maybe that makes you feel alive too. Hope everyone is doing well. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of the recent survey responses we got. We sent out a survey that got over 200 responses from community builders, and I wanted to make sure to share with all of you who are interested some of what we discovered from that process. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of get comfy, get eased in here. Hopefully your morning has not been too crazy. How's your morning been, Dom?
It's been great.
Producer Dom's over here.
He's wish it wasn't snowing, but
sipping coffee.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you join here, just let us know how you're doing. Let us know what the weather is like where you are. And without further ado, I'll just get going. Before I do, actually, one more thing. I'm going to be doing a webinar this coming Thursday. I haven't done one in now over 4 months. That's public, that's open to anybody on my email list or anybody, just anybody actually, as long as you register, you're able to join us. It caps at 500. So I don't know that we'll hit 500. If we did, that'd be awesome, but it'd be the first. So it's open to anybody, and I'm really excited about it. Number one, because I'm finally well rested enough that I can show up and be energetic for all of you so that you can learn as much as possible. And number two, because I'm going to be sharing something that I have not shared before around deep inner work of community builders. And this is something that I've noticed many of us are skipping. We're missing out on, and it's causing all kinds of other domino effects in our work and in our entire profession, frankly. So I'm going to be talking about that on Thursday. If you want to dive really deep into, how you can show up with more power, more confidence, so that you're not waiting for someone to give you permission or give you the respect that you inherently deserve. That's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be doing some real talk about community building, because yes, it's hard. Yes, it's going to test you. Yes, you're going to get stuck. But if we continue to have the same inner dialogues about the way that things should be or have always been, we're going to burn out over and over and over again. So oh yes. Good morning, Olga, or evening. Good evening, Olga. Polish spring, 10 degrees. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit? I'm assuming it's Celsius, which is pretty nice if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's not that here. I wish I could say that. But good morning. So great, or good evening. So great to see you here. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about our survey and what we learned from over 200 different community builders. And I'll be talking even more about this on Thursday during our webinar. If you would like to sign up for that, you can go to actually my profile on LinkedIn. And I just made a post about it recently. So you can RSVP at the link inside of that post. So I would love to see you there. Yes, Celsius, I figured. Because 10 is very, very, very cold here. So I was hoping you weren't converting that for me. I'm glad. So yeah, let's dive into some of what we learned. So we did the survey from early April. I think we actually launched it on the 4th. It could have been, I think it was the 4th, and we ran it for about a week. And in that time period, we got over 200 responses from community builders. Now, the majority of those who filled out this survey came from either medium-sized businesses or really, really large businesses, or were themselves entrepreneurs, founders of small businesses. So I think that's really, really important to keep in mind that there is a spread here, and it's not focused predominantly on enterprise level community builders. I think that's really, really important, because what you're seeing from some of the other research that's coming out, whether it's from CMX or even the Community Roundtable, both good reports. What you're seeing there is a lot of enterprise responses. So the reality is very, very different for those of us who often do not work inside of large enterprises. Like, it's fantastic if you do. I've definitely worked with those large enterprises. It's great to have like all of this scoop money. You just like throw $60,000 at something and the problem goes away. But most of us are not working in that reality. And who knows what's going to go on in the world in the next several months. And so I don't even know if the enterprise community builders will continue to live and work within that reality. So number one, the first thing that we found is that over half of respondents said that they were actively seeking out support in the form of new hires for their team or for training and consulting. So they knew that they did not have the resources at their disposal currently, and they're actively seeking other ones. I think this is really important because it shows that most of us are feeling under-resourced right now. We're feeling like we could use more support, whether that means in the form of more headcount or a course we could take, or a consultant like myself and my team could come in and help offer that support. So that's number one. Number two, 44.9% of our responses, or 43% essentially of our responses, came from those who identified as being on a community team of one. So this was the most common setup of a community team, which is just one person doing all of the work for their community. And so again, this really is, it's in opposition to some of the other research that we've seen where teams seem to be expanding. I'm actually, in many cases, not seeing that. I work with clients who often know that they have problems and that they need to solve them. And so they go out and hire. And so if I only look at what I hear from my clients, I would think too, oh, it's expanding. The whole industry is expanding. Things are really great and hunky-dory and sparkly and wonderful. But when we did this survey, which goes out to many, many more folks than just those who are working directly with us, what we're finding is that they're still working on a team of one, still working on a team of one. So if that's you, know that you're not alone. And it also means we have a lot of room to grow as a profession over the next several years, decades, whatever that might mean, because we cannot continue to do this work alone. It's just not sustainable. It's not feasible. It's why so many of us burn out and disappear for months at a time, myself included at different points. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, there are two other stats that are really concerning to me. They're really, really concerning, especially coupled with what I just shared. These stats are kind of twin statistics. So 23% of respondents said that they have zero budget for the support that they need. Another 23% said they don't know whether they have a budget or not. So we're talking about 46% of respondents, almost half, don't have a budget or don't know if they have a budget to get those needs met. And that often coincides with those who are seeking those resources actively. They don't have the budget to get them, which means they've hit a dead end. They're going to get stuck. And so they're continuing to push themselves harder and harder and harder to show up, do everything, be perfect, all the things that are not reasonable, they're not human, that again cause burnout. So those are some of the really, really critical insights I hope that you take to heart in your own work, either because you are feeling the pressures of some of that yourself, or because you're in a really good situation and you realize like this is an anomaly and many, many other people are struggling right now. A couple of other things I wanted to share. I'm just pulling up some of my other information here. There is over a quarter of our respondents said that they have little influence on the decision to get the support or training or resources that they need. So they want them, but they either don't have a lot of influence or they don't believe that they have a lot of influence, which I often see in my work. They don't believe that they have it, and therefore they don't go after it, don't pursue it. Another thing that's important is that the top need was additional headcount. And this is really not surprising given our current job market and given the growth of the number of community jobs that are being created. And many of them are not getting filled because there is a lack of skills in the area, lack of skills training, which we're not going to be able to make up for if we don't have the budget to get the training, right? We're in a kind of quagmire here. The other thing that's important to note here is that the top platform that people selected that they use for community building was Slack. I was a little bit disappointed in this because the audience that we went out to is filled with those who are professional community builders, and many are still relying upon Slack as their go-to option. Now, there are many reasons for this. Number one, it's free in most cases, unless you upgrade the plan and want to keep your resources and add more, keep your chat message history and add more apps to it and all that. So I do know some of you do pay for it, but it's free. It's extensible in that you can add apps to it, and you're able to, at least to some degree, capture the data versus something like a Facebook group, which we did still see quite a number of folks who use Facebook group. It was one of the top, it was like the 7th top choice. So we're still seeing that. At least people are going and getting a platform that they can get the data from, so they can get the insights that they need to improve their work and feel better and more confident about the work that they're doing. But Slack was number one. I will say it was followed by other, which in many cases meant that folks had an in-house built solution. We're using something like one of the ones that we did not include was Insided. And I was surprised by the low amount of folks who use things like Discord, Discourse, Higher Logic, and things like that. But again, I think this goes hand in hand with the fact that we really saw that most of the respondents to this survey were small and medium-sized businesses. So they are using the resources they have at their disposal. No shame in that, nothing wrong with it, but we've got to know, what those tools' limits are, and also make sure that we're sticking with them and not giving our community members weird, disjointed experiences by changing them all the time. I'm part of a community that has changed their platform 3 times, and I've basically stopped being active in it. I still use the resources, but I don't even bother to figure out which platform they're using anymore. And so, yes, it's very frustrating for people, and I'm pretty patient about these things. Another thing that I wanted to share is that the top reason people are investing in communities among those who responded is to improve customer retention, which is fantastic. I think that's a really good and solid place to be at. And then also to help with product and services growth. So you're either working with some marketing goals in mind, or you're working with customer retention goals in mind in many, many, many cases. I just want to make sure here that the number of those who are working on service and support communities was actually fairly low from this survey respondent base. It's usually not a use case that I and my team work on, at least not exclusively. We work on some of the more mission-driven kinds of communities. And then finally, I think there's one other thing I wanted to share. Yes, the needs that you have right now. So the top needs that we saw from community builders today: scaling your processes, scaling your operations is number 1. 2, organizing a plan for your engagement. And 3, identifying and measuring community ROI. Now, these are all things that I do teach in my Engage Your Online Community course. So that was really exciting to see that those are needs that we are addressing. But what that's also showing us is that we've still got some really basic work to do around community ROI and organizing plans to increase engagement. These things should be done in part of a larger strategy. But really what I want to take away from this, like the TLDR, the most important thing to take away from this is that we are under-resourced. We have been doing a lot with very, very little for a long time. And in order to move forward as individuals in our profession and as a profession, we are going to need to make some changes to what we accept and what we believe that we deserve as community builders, and how we even perceive how people respect us or don't respect us. And these are not moves that can be made just by getting a new technology or creating a fancy new PowerPoint deck. They are inner shifts that must be made for us to move forward. And so that's exactly what we're going to be diving really, really deep into on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. That is 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be in the evening in Europe and in India and some other places where I know people will be joining in from. I might do a second version if people want me to do it so that it's morning your time. If you are somewhere not in the northern, not in North America. But we'll see how that goes. But I'm setting aside an hour and a half for this. Usually my webinars are like 45 minutes of teaching content, 15 minutes of Q&A. But I know how deep this work needs to be and how deep it can go. And so I'm going to really be spending a lot of time. I'm going to stick around for as long as I need to answer all the questions that need to be answered. And I'm just really excited. I'm excited to do this deeper work because when I'm working with clients, the templates are great. The frameworks are great. Like they read my book, it's helpful for them, but they can't really apply and feel transformed until they have made these inner shifts. And so these shifts don't happen overnight. Sometimes they do. I will say there's some people who are like, oh, wow, I've been living in a like dream state. I don't have to believe that thing that I believe about myself and my work. And then they just stop doing it. But more often it takes several weeks, months even to work with your team to change the way that other people perceive you as a result of having had a different way of presenting yourself for a long time prior. So it can take a while. And that's why this work is really deep and really critical and important. Just crucial, all the other words that mean important. So that's what I'll be talking about on Thursday. I hope that you will join us. You can go to my LinkedIn profile and find one of my most recent posts. I have a link to RSVP. It's open to the public. And I will be sharing out all kinds of stuff in there that I've not shared before, which I'm really, really excited to do because this is the stuff that really lights me up. And I see makes a huge, huge difference because no matter how many resources you get, what I see in my work is that even those who are really well-resourced feel a sense of insecurity and feel a sense of even potentially like feeling disrespected in their roles or not important until you've made these inner shifts. So we're going to nip that in the bud. Okay. We're going to nip it. Okay. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop me a DM or an instant message here on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I'll be going live here and on Instagram pretty much every day this week except Friday. And I'm really excited about that because it gives me an opportunity to talk to all of you live more often than I ever get to. It also means me in a lot of these sessions and not getting a lot of actual work done, which my team has, is so lovely in understanding that. But that's it. That's a wrap for me. So I hope to see you all Thursday. Have a wonderful rest of your day and take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.